Hi, everyone. All right, it's after lunch. Everyone is really sleepy, so we're gonna play a game. All right, so we're gonna start with an experiment. So I did some research on trusty ChatGPT, so everything, of course, is 100% true. So what we are gonna do is we're gonna play a game, and I asked ChatGPT, what is something that's true about 50% of people? So we're gonna do an experiment with the people in this room, and we are going to put that to the test. So I'm gonna tell you the statistic, and when I say it, I'm gonna say, if this is true about you, raise your hand, and then you'll raise your hand if it's true about you. This is very scientific research, okay? All right, here we go. So the first one, research from ChatGPT tells us that 50% of people like coffee. So if you like coffee, raise your hand. Okay, all right, that's probably more than 50%. Maybe Minneapolis is skewing the numbers here. I like it. All right, let's do the second one. Research tells us that 50% of people have seen a real ghost in their lifetime. So if you believe you have really seen a ghost, raise your hand. Okay, find those people at happy hour later. I'm sure they have good stories. Okay, let's do the third one. Research tells us that 50% of people use their cell phone on the toilet. Don't be afraid, raise your hand. Is this you? Come on, people. ChatGPT does not lie. All right, let's do the last one. All right, research tells us that 50% of people, when they think their thoughts in words. The other 50% of people think their thoughts in pictures. So if you think your thoughts in words, I want you to raise your hand. Okay. All right, HR people think their thoughts in words. I love it. All right, well, thank you for playing with me. I appreciate it. Hopefully we're a little bit more awake now. And now we're gonna do a little bit of a different type of an experiment. So at risk of you all falling asleep on me, I want you to close your eyes for just a second. So close your eyes, and I want you to take a really big breath. Go in and out. We're gonna slow down for just a second. And I'm gonna ask you 3 questions, and I just want you to answer them in your head. So the first question is, what are you feeling? Notice I didn't say, how are you? The answer is not fine or good. I asked you, what specific emotions are you feeling right now? The second question, what are you thinking about? What's distracting you from being here, present with me, right in this moment? Maybe it's your to-do list, the emails that you know are building up, but what is it that's keeping you from being here, right this minute? I want you to name it, and I want you to pretend to put it inside of an imaginary box, close the lid on it, and we're gonna put it on a shelf for the next 18 minutes while I talk to you. All right, the last question, who are you today? Neuroscience tells us that our brains are biologically different yesterday than they are today, than they will be tomorrow. We are literally a different human being every single day. Yesterday, I was a mom, packing off my kids to school. Today, I'm a lady in a hot pink power suit talking to all of you all. But who are you today? How would you describe yourself? All right, I want you to open up your eyes. If you found that challenging, you are not alone. Remember that 50% we were talking about earlier? 50% of people have a hard time accurately identifying their emotions in real time. And why is that? It's because we live in a really busy world. We live in like back-to-back Zoom meetings and constant notifications. We are just slammed by constant stimulation. And so we don't really stop and spend the time that we need to slow down and think about who we are and how we want to show up and what we're feeling. And even more than that, we're not thinking about what the people around us are thinking or feeling. So I want you to get one person that you work with closely in your head right now. You don't have to close your eyes again. But I want you to think of one person. Maybe it's your boss, maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's someone that reports to you. But I want you to get that person in your mind. Could you answer those same 3 questions about them? What are they feeling this week? What's distracting them? Who are they really outside of work? Because at the end of the day, we work with humans. And as humans, as much as we don't want to have them, we have emotions, 27 categories of them to be exact. And as much as we'd love to think that every person that works with us just gets 100% enjoyment all the time, I know people that work with me feel that way, but realistically, we feel a lot of other things too at work, and we don't always name them. That second question, what's distracting us? Right now, I'm a little distracted myself. My aunt is standing in the back, and I'm so excited to give her a hug later. So we have these distractions that are real, and we think that they're distractions like social media, or maybe somebody's watching Netflix over their lunch break, and we think that's a distraction. But the reality is that there are so many other distractions that are out there in our world today. The very first time I gave this keynote, it was the day after a school shooting in Nashville, Tennessee. And I honestly teared up on the stage involuntarily at this slide because I was thinking about my 5-year-old and going to kindergarten roundup with him 2 days later and all of the things that I was feeling. And it was hard for me to be 100% present in my job because there's a lot of other things that are going out there in the world that follow us into work because we are humans. But the interesting thing is that society has taught us not to bring all of those things into work. We act in this professional manner that keeps most of who we are underneath the surface. Most of what we're feeling, most of what we're thinking, most of our background and experiences way deep down underneath the surface. And it makes it really hard for us to operate as humans with other humans. So I want to revisit the check-in one more time. So those 3 questions. What are you feeling? What might be distracting you? And who are you today? So I work with a consultant that does a lot of leadership development with Microsoft, and they used this check-in with hundreds of their managers. And at first they were really not excited about doing this check-in process and talking about their feelings at the beginning of meetings. And I don't blame them. We live in a very busy world. Do we really have time for this? But what they found is that when they implemented this check-in on a regular basis, their meeting time actually went down by 30% on a regular basis. And it's because when you know all of these things underneath the surface about the people that you're working with, it makes it so much easier to operate smoothly and to build trust and to know how you can approach things with other people interpersonally. So I want us to go to a little bit of a different place for just a minute. So I want you to imagine that feeling of going to a campfire. So let's pretend like we're all gonna pack up in a really big RV. We've got a whole bunch of great HR people that are going together to a campsite, maybe around one of your 10,000 lakes here in Minnesota. And we are going to build a campfire. And you know that feeling when you've collected all of the firewood and you light that match for the first time and the warm flames are starting to really build and you're all sitting together around this campfire. And as the heat of the fire grows, so does the conversation. You get just a little bit deeper. You share these real stories about the things that you experienced, maybe on a hike throughout the day, or things that you've experienced at other points in time in your life. And as you talk and as the fire grows, your commonalities emerge. And you find these similarities that you have with people, and you bond over those. But then you also notice your differences. But instead of them being divisive, they help bond you in such a different way when you have this deeper layer of connection. Campfires have been an essential part of our communities for centuries for this exact reason. It's a place where people can come around for warmth, for their food, and for that true, meaningful connection. So what would it look like if that feeling that we just had, if that feeling was what was most present in our workplaces? How would we create that kind of safety so that people can feel that warmth, that connection, the same way we do around a campfire? Amy Edmondson is a Harvard professor. She has an amazing TED Talk. If you've not seen it, it's worth looking up. And she did a lot of work with Google as they were thinking about how to build the best leader. And the 3 things that she says build psychological safety are, number 1, that you frame work as a learning problem. It's not about people being on separate teams or trying to win against other people. It's about all framing the work together as a problem that they're solving from the same side. The second one is that leaders admit their own fallibility. They are humans. They admit that they are humans and that they make mistakes. And then the last one is that they're curious. They're deeply curious. They ask lots of questions. They're really interested in getting to know people on a deeper level and not always having all of the answers themselves. And that's why we believe that Campfire is such a great metaphor for this kind of a feeling inside of the workplace. Because when you can create that kind of space for people to show up in those types of ways, it does create a different kind of safety. So I want to look at some additional research that's been coming out, particularly out of the last several years as we've been coming out of the pandemic. So last week, the Surgeon General here in the United States posted a research report that talked about the loneliness epidemic. So Vivek Murthy is extremely knowledgeable in this place. He wrote a great book called Together. It's a great read talking about this loneliness epidemic and how we can fix the state of social connection in the United States. And one of the biggest factors he believes is our workplaces. So one of the things in the report that came out last week that blew my mind is the idea that when you are that deeply lonely, when you have that lack of connection, on your physical health, it has the same detriment as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's how much it contributes to things like premature death. So what he says in his book Together is the antidote to this, is he talks about how we can make our workplaces an engine for mental health and well-being. I bet if I asked you all to raise your hands again, I'm not gonna make you do it, but I bet if I were to ask you to raise your hands again, there would not be 50% of you that would say, yeah, my workplace is an engine for mental health and well-being. That's not how we're set up in today's society. And so he put together this whole framework of ways in which we can approach this loneliness epidemic. And one of the things that he talks about is the role of a manager in being able to build this kind of a place. And this research isn't just coming from Vivek Murthy, it's also coming from McKinsey. So the number one reason why people left their jobs during the height of the pandemic was that they believed that their manager didn't care about them. And all of these other things that are here too, that they didn't know what was expected of them, that they didn't have opportunities to grow and learn, that they potentially didn't have support for their well-being, all of that comes back to their manager as well. The other thing that we know, this is research that's just come out in the last 6 months, this one is also mind-blowing to me, is that a manager has more of an impact on an employee's mental health and well-being than their therapist or their doctor, and the same impact on mental health as their partner or their spouse. I mean, if you've had a bad boss, you know what this feels like. You've been awake at 3 a.m., replaying a conversation in your mind, thinking about what you could have said differently. I know I've been there too. So this is a real thing that's impacting our workplaces, that we know that if managers were better equipped to be able to have this type of connection with people inside of their organizations, it could make a big difference in how we approach work overall. So we believe there are 3 major components at Campfire to building the map for connected leadership. So how we connect with ourselves, how we connect with our teams, and how we connect with our companies. So let's start with the first one. So how you connect with yourself. Tasha Eurich is another really great TED Talk, and she talks about self-awareness. And one of the most interesting statistics from her TED Talk is that 90% of people think that they are self-aware, but only 10% of people actually are. So we all think we know what we've got going on, but we don't. But that's really true about our managers as well. How many of your leaders, when you go talk to them about leadership development, they're like, yeah, I've got this figured out. I'm good. And you're like, no, we've got all these other things going on, these employee relations things, and these performance management conversations. These are real things that we need to be talking through. So at Campfire, we believe that it's really important to help people get that true deep connection with themselves through figuring out what's really important to them. So like the check-in that we did earlier. When was the last time that you just sat for 5 minutes without your phone, without any notifications, and you just took time to think about how you were feeling and what might be distracting you? It completely changes the way that you go into conversations. We also think that it's really important to get this awareness. So Kim Scott is the author of Radical Candor. One of my favorite prompts that she has in that book is this question: what is it like to work with me? That is a really hard question to ask, but if you're really open to the answers, remember, you don't have to agree with all of the answers, but you can say thank you to all of the answers and take them back and process them later. The next one is connecting with your team. People are deeply craving this connection. They want that feeling of being connected with other people. I know I have that same feeling too. I work for a remote-first company. They're headquartered out of Salt Lake City, and I live in Kansas City. My coworker here today, Jen, she's in Virginia. We're all over the place. And one of the things that I noticed when I started working for a remote-first company is that I was really lonely. I was talking to my cat most of the day. That's not a good vibe. So I did this thing that I started on LinkedIn, and I put out there that if anyone wanted to meet with me for coffee virtually, I would be hosting one in a day or two, and I would just be there to help facilitate conversation between anyone who wanted to come. Any industry, any persons, free, whatever we wanted to do. The next day, 35 people were in my Zoom room. I was shocked. And a year later, I've now hosted over 1,000 people in my coffee chats from 6 different continents across the world. It's amazing how many people are craving this connection, and they're just looking for a place to have it. And so you, inside of your organizations, can create these spaces where people can begin to connect with each other, and it doesn't cost much money to give that kind of framework and to create those kind of spaces. And we have conversations every single day inside of our company, right? We're always talking to each other. And so giving people deeper ways to connect inside of those conversations is really important. And I think that's the thing that set my coffee chats apart, which I did unintentionally. I'm going to be honest. I wish I was smart enough to do this on purpose. But what I do is I bring people into the main room, and then I have them go into breakout rooms. And when I send them into breakout rooms, I give them a prompt that makes them go just a little bit deeper than the small talk. And so it gives them permission to just, stop being awkward at the beginning and not know what to talk about. They go in there, and maybe the prompt is, what's something that you're really proud you did this week? And so they have to get a little bit vulnerable. So you can do that for your teams. You can create that same type of safety with interesting prompts, spaces for reflection, spaces for conversations. And the same thing with connecting with our company. People are really interested in being a part of a community, especially with the generations incoming to our workplace. They want to be connected to a company that has purpose. They want to understand what their purpose is inside of the bigger picture. So helping vocalize that inside of your organization can make a really big difference as well. And that's what we've done at Campfire. We've created this space where we bring 15 managers in from different companies, different industries across the world, and we talk about a really specific topic, like how to have a difficult feedback conversation. And the biggest things that come from those Campfire sessions, like the feedback that we get, is not that they learn this groundbreaking feedback, thing that they can go use. We do give that too, but the bigger thing that we notice more out of the reviews is that they just appreciated this safe space to connect with each other so that they could have someone really see them. Because being a manager is really hard. You have to do really hard things in those roles. You're dealing with people and humans in their lives. And so giving that safe space for people inside of your organization can be so helpful so that they can be seen and supported in community-based ways. So every single Campfire session that we have, we end with something that we like to call take action. So I always say in every single session that I facilitate, what we do in this hour is great, but what's more important is what you go do with it afterwards. That's where the true behavior change happens. So I'm gonna do the same thing with all of you today. So your take action for today. One of the things that's interesting about something that I've been doing, so I'm writing a book, and my book is about the relationship between a CEO's mental health and the correlation of that CEO's mental health and the relationship and the connection and the health of an overall organization. And so I've been interviewing CEOs from across the country. And the thing that's been the most interesting for me out of every single one of these conversations is all of those CEOs, just like you and just like me, we are all human beings. Doesn't matter what their title is, doesn't matter how much money they have, we are all just humans. And as humans, we have a deep need to connect. So my take action for you, my challenge for you out of today is to pull out your phone. You're allowed to do it. Pull out your phone. And I want you to pull out your phone. And as I'm finishing up today, what I really want you to do is I want you to send a text message to someone that you haven't talked to in a while. It can be professional, it can be personal, whatever serves you best today is what I want you to do. But the thing about closing the connection gap is that it starts with every single one of us. So I want you to text that person, make it in your voice, and say, I was thinking about you, I really appreciate you because, or I'm grateful for you. This is the impact that you've had on my life. But go, just like my coffee chats, go just a little bit deeper, just for a minute with that person, and make a true, genuine connection with the person on the other side of the phone. And then let me know how it goes later. Because at the end of the day, we are all humans. And the only way that we can close this connection gap starts with every single one of you. Thank you so much.